There was an interesting medical study on what happens to people after they die. Are people coming back to life? Are they getting to that great white light? Let's take a look. Scientists at the University of Southampton have spent 4 years examining more than 2,000 people who suffered cardiac arrest in the UK, US, and Austria. Nearly 40% of people who survived described some kind of awareness during the time when they were clinically dead before their hearts were restarted. 13% they had felt separated from their bodies and their senses had been heightened, and we've got a couple more findings for you. One man recalled leaving his body entirely, watching his resuscitation from the corner of the room. Despite being unconscious and dead for 3 minutes, he recounted the actions of the nursing staff in detail and described the sound of the machines. So we hear about this stuff all the time. John's already shaking his head. No, I know I've got another skeptic in Kim. But we hear about this stuff all the time, and you know, I guess there really is no way of knowing, right? People aren't coming back from the dead, but it's an interesting thing to think about and to talk about.
It is interesting. Look, I love the idea of like resurrection and things like that. I think that that's very interesting. But the thing that always strikes me about these near-death experiences or like consciousness after death is that they're always so provincial. Like they always have the same senses humans have. They see things and they hear things. Even in the animal kingdom, there are other senses than that. There's echolocation, there's sensitivity to magnetic waves. Like they never have any new information. They only have the same sort of information a human suspended from the ceiling could have.
Right. Well, I guess they're still humans at that point, even if they're trans. So maybe we don't get.
They're spiritual beings. They've transcended.
Okay, so John's given a pretty sound scientific explanation of why maybe this isn't real. But are some things just beyond science? Something like this is beyond what can be measured scientifically, right?
I read this article and I thought, okay, that's interesting. Perhaps the brain is able to react more than we thought beyond our current medical standards. I didn't read that as paranormal life after death. That's just, it's further of our understanding of, I suppose, the human brain, or perhaps how our trigger stimuli works when we're approaching death. I don't think that's any sign of anything paranormal or spiritual. Yeah, so I think it does bring up some interesting points, because if we could somehow prove this or quantify that something actually is happening, it would change how we do end-of-life things, right? Like euthanasia and keeping people alive on machines. You might want to extend people's life if they were in some sort of alternate universe or whatever you want to call it. So it could change how we treat life, right?
Or in the opposite direction, if you knew that there was some life after death, you might just off yourself and want to experience that. I mean, for people who have a shitty situation right now but feel like this is all they have, if they knew they'd become some sort of floating wraith being, maybe they would want to kill themselves.
Oh, let's make it Lord of the Rings now.
Was that a Lord of the Ring reference?
Yes.
It went right over my head. I thought that was just very sciencey.
But look, if they could prove it, I would love that. I would talk about it on my show constantly. It's just, at this point, I don't think that these sorts of experiences necessarily provide much proof.
We also have this article calls it biggest ever scientific study. Is this a scientific study because were there properly controlled conditions? It's a study right there.
No. I'm saying it is just a study.
Yeah, and it's all self-reported, and you know, perhaps we're experiencing things in the human mind that we might not normally experience when we're close to death, when we have this visceral reaction of, I am going to die, and you know, perhaps the subconscious becomes more aware. I don't know, but it's great to study, and I think it does require more study.
So is that the part of it that's really the intriguing part? Is that fundamentally we will never know, and because we'll never know, we have to, it sort of prescribes whatever your life meaning is, you can prescribe to whatever the afterlife is, because they're not going to show you a paper one day and say this is what happens. It's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah, or at least not anytime soon. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that for people who aren't particularly scientifically minded, or those who are, an area where science can't yet tread is definitely interesting, and it provides fertile ground for a lot of interesting hypothesizing.
Final thought, and this is the meaning of life question. Do you think it would take something out of life if we knew what it was all about? If we knew that there was an afterlife, do you think it would somehow...
Journey, destination.
Yeah, does it take some of the meaning out of what we're doing here? Because to me it seems like I don't know what the hell's going on after this thing. I'm not even sure what's happening now, but we're here, so I do the best I can, you know? So I think you would fundamentally lose something if you actually did know what was going on after.
Well, John's point about the continuous ritual suicide might become a thing, unless, you know, your religion says don't commit suicide. But yeah, I very much feel that the journey is more important than the destination. My life is probably more important than whatever is after my life, because I can feel this and I can see this and I know it's here, and I should be able to put some meaning into it.
Yeah, I think that for some people it definitely would, but I mean, even if as a teenager you're well aware of the fact that you're going to be an adult at some point, that doesn't mean that you just disregard your teen years. I mean, you still have to experience it, you still learn from it and grow. So I would hope that people, by the time we had proof, would be advanced enough to not be overly swayed by the proof.